Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and there are 96 playable legendary lords in Total War Warhammer. That's actually quite a lot considering that this series has been going on for a fair time and we're still going to get a lot more. Well, one can hope at least. And they're all spread out through a variety of different races as you can see on screen. Now the problem is that some of the legendary lords, particularly ones from Game 1 and Game 2, don't really feel that unique. And back then that wasn't really much of a problem as the game design of Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 was very different to the game design of Warhammer 3. However, we do know that Creative Assembly want to rework factions and a few other things to bring characters in line with Game 3, which would be absolutely amazing as replayability is one of the key factors as why so many people keep coming back to Total War. So today we're going to talk about some characters that really do need a rework to make them feel more in line with Game 3. Before anything, a big thank you to our sponsors at Instant Gaming. As you guys might be aware, the costs of games are going up, but Instant Gaming have their costs down. You're able to get Steam keys and other platforms too, including for that of PlayStation and Xbox, at a pretty discounted rate, meaning that you can pick up stuff like the Elden Ring DLC, which has just recently come out, for a big discount of 23% off. They've also got a variety of different other games, so there's likely something that you're very much interested in, and you can get it cheaper rather than paying full price. You're also able to pick up a variety of different DLCs for Total War Warhammer at a pretty heavily discounted price, alongside some Total War games that you might be looking for. For example, Total War Pharaoh is currently £14.06. And even though there's a Steam summer sale going on, some of the DLCs for Total War Warhammer 3 and Game 1 and Game 2 are also currently cheaper on Instant Gaming. And lastly, don't forget that we do have a giveaway going on right now, kindly provided by Instant Gaming themselves, to win a game of your choice that ends at the end of this month. So you have one more day at the time of recording this video to get that sorted. A big thank you to Instant Gaming once again for sponsoring this video, and now let's return to our regularly scheduled programming. Now before we begin, a big thing to note is that we won't be talking about races that need a rework overall, so stuff like Norska and the Lizardmen will not feature in this video. Those factions and races need a lot more fix than a 0.1 patch can handle. They need their own dedicated DLCs and development time from said DLCs to fix them up and bring them into line. You know what, we're going to start off with a Game 3 faction. I know that might sound weird, but Boris Ursus is a character who was introduced as a surprise legendary lord for Warhammer 3. He wasn't really billed to be there originally, and yeah, he wasn't really much of a surprise either because he leaked constantly, but Creative Assembly leaked him, so I guess that's fine. Now, Boris is a beloved character, mostly because he was one of the named characters in the 6th edition Kislev supplement. He had a really cool character model, and I mean, yeah, it's Boris Ursus, right? Now, the big issue here is that Boris doesn't have a unique mechanic. I know, it sounds bizarre. I mean, most of Kislev doesn't, because Katerin and Konstantin have this whole situation on who's the better leader, but Boris just supports that, which it feels empty. Never mind the fact that he's in the Northern Chaos Wastes doing his own thing, he's also got to babysit Katerin and Konstantin and decide who is going to win that race. It feels very badly thought out for a character who could have a mechanic hunting down Chaos factions. Considering in the lore he had pushed up north to deal with a Chaos faction and that's what originally killed him, yet for some reason he's magically alive here. He should have something more, and it's rather disappointing that there is really no reason to play as him. Sure, he does have some minor fixes here and there. His faction has the benefit of settling in the Chaos Wastes and negating the negatives, but it's still not enough. There should be something where you could get some faction-wide bonuses, or even some character bonuses, maybe a bit of both, if you take out specific Chaos factions. Now, don't get me wrong, Kislev does need a touch-up here and there, but I don't think that Kislev needs an overall rework. What they need to do is fix up certain issues and they're done, and I very much doubt that we're going to see more Kislev DLC in the future. I don't know why, but I've just got that feeling. But yeah, I think fixing up Boris would be great, because it's literally just feeling like the same campaign 3 times. I don't mind it so much for Katerin and Konstantin, even though Konstantin should have a little bit more unique stuff to him. But yeah, Boris deserves more rather than just being a support character. It just makes no sense for Boris Ursus. Alright, we're going to talk about Malekith now, because Malekith is the leader of the Dark Elves, and kind of feels vanilla. The other legendary lords all have something to go for them, even if it's very minor, but yeah, Malekith just feels empty. Now, there's a good reason for that, which we'll talk about here, so we don't have to repeat it for any other characters later on in this video, but yeah, Creative Assembly didn't want to make the base game factions of Game 1 and Game 2 unique because they wanted them to be the starter factions. That's now changed, finally. They've listened to us for Thrones of Decay, where Karl Franz has his own unique mechanic, so I expect that with other characters too. Malekith, as far as End Times lore goes, is the Phoenix King. Now, you might say that the End Times doesn't make sense, it's not canon or whatever, but unfortunately it is, and it breaks my heart every single day. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have a little bit of fun with it, because there's been a rumored End Times DLC in the works for a long time now. So, what if some end time stuff did creep in to kind of give Malekith a little bit more incentive? I'm talking about going down to Ulthuan, taking over, either vassalizing the High Elves or being able to recruit some High Elves. It's a small mechanic, but it would basically be control over Ulthuan, getting more access to the High Elves as you get vassals or take over, using the same bar that Alarielle has for the stability of Ulthuan. However, as you start improving that bar with Malekith, you'd get access to some more and more High Elf units. You wouldn't get the full roster, because obviously that wouldn't make sense, it would be way too powerful as it stands, because the Dark Elf units are fairly decent, but a few units here and there giving you that feeling of, yes, he is becoming the Phoenix King, he does have control of them, the Elven tribes are uniting under him, and now you can use both units to just destroy the rest of your enemies. It would take a while to get there, but it fits with the characters. That's something that he wanted to do originally anyway, and yeah, I mean, it just sucks when a base game lord feels vanilla compared to DLC characters, because there's no reason to play as Malekith when you've got characters with their own bespoke mechanics, which make them, yes, play as their race, but also adds a little bit of extra flavor, again, leading towards replayability. Next is Queek Headtaker. You might have noticed there's no particular order for this, I'm just going with the characters I've been playing recently. So Queek in Warhammer 3 is leading Clan Moors, and he's a base game character. Once again, it sucks, because this is a character that actually is beloved by the fanbase. Not only did he have an incredible novel, but even in the tabletop he was so popular that people would actually base their armies around Queek Headtaker and do Clan Moors themed armies. Now, don't get me wrong, Queek is fun to play, but when you've got all these other clans which have their own bespoke mechanics, once again, he feels very empty. Now, he doesn't need anything too stylized, all he needs is something like hunting down characters. When you kill them, you claim their heads, their faction ends up getting a minor lord maybe, and from there, you can put the heads on the trophy rack to get a bonus for your faction, and you'll have, what, 5 slots to be able to get bonuses. Small bonuses, so you'll need all 5 to actually make a big difference, but it incentivizes you to go out and find the best bonuses that synergize together in a very similar way to Grom the Pauncher's ingredient mechanic, I guess. When Grom came out, a lot of people were asking for something like this, and I feel it could be very similar to that, but rather than, you know, it's a bonus for a certain amount of turns, you'd have these bonuses permanently until you swap out the heads yourself. Essentially, yes, a mechanical reskin with just a few changes here and there, but sometimes you don't need a lot to make a character very interesting. Look at Epidemius. His character is essentially just vanilla Nurgle as from 5.0, but also has a small addition just to kind of add in a little bit of flavor, and it does it incredibly well. I very much enjoy Epidemius, and something simple for Queek would be just as good. Further expanding to this, obviously Queek Headtaker needs a better mechanic for the whole 8-peak scenario. It's something that needs to be done for Queek, Belegar, and Skarsnik at the same time. Honestly, making it much more lucrative and making a lot more interesting fights happen, especially now since we know that, yeah, they can do free-for-all in terms of free factions fighting, free AI factions fighting on custom battles. If we could see something stylized like that, which we'll talk about in a future video, by the way, it'd be really cool, and it would add a lot more theming to it. Plus, like, let's be honest, Belegar needs some help too, and Skarsnik. The reason why I haven't talked about them too much is because we've talked about them in previous videos. Skarsnik and Queek are still better than Belegar, that's for sure. Belegar's campaign I actively avoid if I can. Next would be Settra the Imperishable. Now, the Tomb Kings don't have their own unique mechanics when it comes to all the legendary lords, and I do feel like they should have that eventually. Well, Arkan has something, but it's relatively minor. But Cetra is the ruler of Nehekara. He is the King of Kings. And the fact that the big boy himself doesn't have something to make him stand up from the other legendary lords is kind of disappointing. Now, I do think that the Tomb Kings will eventually get some sort of DLC, maybe in the future, and possibly around a rework for the faction, because I've been thinking about the Tomb Kings recently, and yes, they could actually do with a little bit of a rework, then they might have their own dedicated video in the future. But just in case the Tomb Kings don't get anything, Cetra does need something. Allowing him to force Confederation if he beats one of the other legendary lords would be great, so being able to pick up Khalida, Arkan, Katep, if Katep survives, because that's what he does in lore. When he woke up after many years of slumber, he basically beat down all the Tomb Kings. That's the first thing he did after he realized, oh good, I'm back. So this is something fairly minor, but it still fits with his lore. Lastly, I'd give him some sort of mechanic to build up and give you a reason to build up all the different types of pyramids, essentially returning Nehekara to its former glory. You'll get more bonuses for that because the more pyramids that you build up, the more overall bonuses you should get for your faction. Again, something small and something that you might be doing anyway, but it should be quite lucrative for you, the one who believes in the older faith, who brought back the older faith to the Nehekarans, who brought back a sense of pride, a sense of, you know, we are the ones who are supposed to inherit the world. Add his lore into the game, because that way you're able to actually get more of a thematic campaign out of it, and people will be more incentivized to play him again and again. And lastly, Tyrion. Did you know that Tyrion is the only High Elf faction without a unique mechanic? Obviously, we got something minor for Teclis, but it works quite well, and everyone else was either a DLC or FLC lord, so they've got their own flavor. Now, I'm not going to suggest the whole unification of Orthwan situation, because, well, Alariel's already got that, and I would not like to see another High Elf or another character having a same mechanic as someone else, because it would just not make sense. What I would do, actually, in a stripped-down version, and obviously not as strong, is take from Malachi's adventure mechanic, but have it a little bit different. You see, the reason why I'm saying this is because he is the greatest general of the High Elves. The Phoenix King would likely send Tyrion out to deal with a lot of problems arising in the world, so it would make sense for him to go around, do these missions, and actually get some bonuses from completing them. So you deal with a Chaos host, you deal with an Orc host, you deal with pretty much anything that is considered a threat to the High Elves. The bonuses wouldn't be as good as Malachi's, but it would give him something to do and be a little bit special here. This is in the case where remaking a faction mechanic actually works out quite well. Now, some of you might have some better ideas for Tyrion, and I'm more than happy to hear them, but the main thing here is just, it would be nice for him to have something which makes sense with his lore. The High Elves are likely going to get a DLC in the future. Obviously, we've all heard those things, and everyone's been screaming about High Elves versus Dark Elves versus Slaanesh, because that would be really fun. And I'm hoping Creative Assembly remember that Tyrion exists and give him something. Doesn't have to be my idea, it could be anything, but it would just be nice to see a little bit of a update for him to make him a little bit more, you know, fun. He is one of the more famous characters in Warhammer Fantasy. It'd be nice to see him a little bit more fun. And lastly, for some honorable mentions. Did you guys really think I was going to do a video like this and not talk about these two characters that I've been hammering on for... God, how long has Warhammer 2 been out now? So, yeah. Morathi and Skrulk. Skrulk, simple enough. Plagues. That's all I want. Make the major clan feel like a major clan by having its own bespoke mechanic. The plagues are there, they're all over the place. All they literally need to do is give them the plague function and then just switch around the art so it'll be like just the cauldron rather than Nurgle. And that will sort a lot of problems. Really, it just needs to be there for fun. At the end of the day, they're a major clan, and again, it really annoys me to no end that Skrulk is treated like a minor faction. It's not Clan Rictus, you know, there needs to be a little bit more for my best boy. Yes, I am very attached to Clan Pestilence. It's an army, that style I played a lot on the tabletop in Warhammer Fantasy Battles. My armies mostly revolved around Plague Monks. It's a faction I want to play with more, and people have modded it in, but the problem is sometimes mods do have issues, so I want this done officially. And then obviously for Morathi, I mean, 6th edition Storm of Chaos, right? The proper Cult of Pleasure. having access to the lore of Slaanesh and a few more demons, some Chaos Warriors of Slaanesh, not having access to some of the bigger stuff of the Dark Elves. This stuff is normally done by mods. There's actually like 5 or 6 overhauls that you can find on the Steam Workshop, but it's something that people have been asking for officially for a long time now, because it would be nice just to get that feeling of Storm of Chaos. Thrones of Decay and Shadows of Change had a little bit of Storm of Chaos in there, so obviously Creative Assembly are looking towards the 6th edition supplement to finish off Warhammer 3 a little bit, and you know what, I'm all for that. Storm of Chaos is literally one of the best campaigns that Games Workshop have ever done. It would be nice to get this officially. It's something that could be done. It makes sense with the lore. She had a small update, which was, what, Demonettes and Slaanesh Corruption. It's not enough. It's not enough. Have her have the proper experience. You've got all the stuff already there. So it's not like a lot of development time needs to put in. Hell, most of the Dark Elf mechanics are also that of the Slaanesh ones. So it's there. It just needs to get a little bit better. I wouldn't even say new mechanics or anything. Just change around the roster a little bit. No seduction mechanic is really needed. Everything else is pretty much based on the slaves anyway, so sorted. But these are some ideas. Maybe you guys have some better ideas. At the end of the day, I'm just kind of excited. They've said, you know, reworks are going to be coming more often. I am pretty hyped up about that because, yeah, some factions do need some TLC. So here's hoping they're listening to everyone. Obviously, there's more important stuff to go to, like, for example, the Lizardmen and Nulska and the Vampire Counts too. But they've also mentioned those recently in their blogs. So I can only assume that they're coming one day. Who knows? One day. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Have a great day, guys. Remember that the links to the giveaway and to Instant Gaming are in the description below. And I'll see you all again very soon. It is ungodly hot here. I'm going to go out to the beach again. See ya.